So let me go all the way back to the beginning. I was actually born in Jamaica, and for those of you who don't know the island, I was born in a place called Clarendon, Frankfield. Now, if you went there today, you'd see quite a lot of subsistence farmers actually working the land. That's where I sort of come from. But you all know the story that during the 1950s, people like my parents had the opportunity to come to this country because as exotic and as wonderful as Jamaica is that it is a third world country and it's full of a lot of poverty. So people like my parents grabbed the opportunity to come to this country so they could better their lives and the lives of their children. And one of the things I always like to remind people of is that actually that is quite an entrepreneurial thing to do. Because for everyone who actually came over to this country in the first place, quite a lot of people sort of stayed behind. Now, in my case, my parents decided to move to Birmingham. Now, before I say the next bit, I just want to check, actually, is anybody here from Birmingham? Okay, that's fine, because the part of Birmingham that I am from, I mean, I have absolutely no fun words to say about it, but it's basically a shithole. I mean, even now, after sort of 40, 50 years on, I still sort of look at that place and think, what a horrible place to be brought up. So, Small Heath is one of those classic inner city areas that sort of devoid of hope, devoid of opportunity, and it's a pit. So, a pretty awful place. Now, I'm from a family of 11, and I'm the eldest boy. And 11 of us, we brought up in one of these classic 2-up, 2-down terrace houses. So you can imagine it was extremely cramped, and we were very, very, very poor. And as a way of subsidising, supplementing the family income, my father had an allotment. And it was my responsibility as the oldest boy to look after this allotment. And this allotment really became my oasis away from the misery that I was surrounded by. I absolutely, absolutely loved being on this allotment. And what I'm about to say now is very, very, very important. When I go around, and especially talk to schools, I tell them this, and I really try and cement it in their minds. I can remember at the age of 11, I was only 11 years old, and I made myself a promise that one day I would own my own farm. Now, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but it was a promise that I lodged into the back of my mind. And then everything that I subsequently did in my life is to try and get into this position of owning my own farm. So much as I like being outside, and so much as I like actually having my hands on growing things, that is what I knew that I wanted to do one day. And obviously, because I'm not from a sort of family where the farm could be handed down, to get your own farm from those sort of beginnings were going to be quite a difficult challenge, but it was a challenge that I set myself. So the key thing about anything that you want to actually achieve in life is to have the courage to dream. Now, I thought the English were quite cynical, but I've now discovered that the Scottish are even more cynical. So the idea of sort of having a dream, it tends to be sort of poo-pooed and tends to be seen as to be quite fanciful, but I fundamentally believe that. If you don't have the courage to dream in the first place, you'll never achieve the things that you want to achieve. So I fundamentally believe that. Anyhow, I went to, in those days they were called secondary models. I went to the local secondary model school in Small Heath, and this school was as much of a shithole as the place that I'd seen. The teachers hated being there, the kids hated their English. It was pretty awful. And they didn't really teach us, they just wanted to manage these sort of kids who couldn't speak English properly or do things properly. It was just an awful place. I mean, today they'd all be taken to court for how they treat those children. It was a pretty horrible place. And I was a bit of a nightmare in my school, and so I spent most of my time at the headmaster's office or at the back of the school. And I really didn't understand what was going on. And it was only in later life I then discovered why I had such a difficult time at school. I'm dyslexic. And in those days, people had absolutely no idea what dyslexia was. And so if you could hardly read and write, which I could hardly read and write, you just put down to be very stupid, and so therefore you were left at the back of the class and you left to get on with your own thing. So at 16, I left school without any qualifications at all. I could hardly read and write, and my headmaster felt that I was the sort of guy that would probably end up in prison. And to be frank, most of the kids I went to school didn't have the prison.